Thank you, Bob. And Bruce, thank you very much for inviting me today. Senator McCann, Representative Davis-Meyer, thank you for being here as well. This is an historic day. For the students who are here, you're not only witnessing the opening of this solar panel farm, which is going to serve this area for a long time to come, but you're witnessing the leadership of this cooperative. You see, it was the Illinois Rural Electric Cooperative, which in 2005, 9 years ago, was the first downstate cooperative to have a windmill, a turbine generating electricity. I was over for its dedication in Pittsfield. Now, they are the first cooperative in the state to have a utility-scale solar panel farm. Now, people may wonder why this one cooperative wants to lead. I think they don't understand the cooperative movement. That is the nature of the electric cooperative movement, to step in and address the challenges of the day and be prepared to bring the solutions to rural America and small town America. Many years ago, there was a time when the big electric utilities in the cities said, we'd love to bring the electricity out there on the farm, but it's just not economical. And we'd love to bring it to your town, but there just aren't enough people. It was the rural electric cooperative movement that said, then we'll do it ourselves. We'll come together, working in partnership with the federal government, and find a way. You're still going to meet people, probably parents, grandparents, maybe great-grandparents, that can tell you to the day when the lights went on in the farmhouse. They remember it. It changed their lives dramatically. They finally had electricity on the farm. And it didn't just mean lights and eventually washers and dryers. It meant that they could bring the benefits of electricity to their farm operations. So they were more productive. They were more profitable. And their families left the farm to future generations. I like the fact that this cooperative is looking ahead, trying to find sources of electricity and power consistent with environmental quality that will serve rural areas in this part of our state and set an example for the rest of the state. Now, we came to this day because of two major contributions. The biggest came from the state of Illinois. The Illinois State DCEO is here, and I want to thank them. I think it was $500,000 that was put into this project. And then the second contribution came from Washington, from the U.S. Department of Agriculture, a program known as the Rural Energy for America program that came up with $415,000 that contributed to it. Let me tell you the ending of this good story. Up there in the hill are 2,223 solar panels, all made in America, made in the USA, creating jobs for American workers. Your tax dollars are going to work up the hill to generate electricity in an environmentally sensible way. The panels were made by American workers. We're going to turn around and spend those paychecks to keep our economy moving. It's a win-win situation. Never would have happened were it not for the leadership of the Illinois Rural Electric Cooperative. Pleasure to be with you today.
Hey, Senator, just talk a little bit about the importance of alternative energy like this solar power plant that's getting put up here.
You know, people would be surprised to learn that in Illinois, we lead the nation in terms of cities and towns which have committed themselves to providing electricity with renewable and sustainable sources. We're number one. What we're seeing in this state is the emergence of new industry. Wind power, solar panels, geothermal, and in every instance, it's not only the environmentally right thing to do, we're creating good paying jobs. These solar panels, 2,223 of them, were made in America by American workers at manufacturing plants. We have got to move toward green energy, the sensible, clean energy sources that call for more jobs being created right here in America. And here we are on a hillside south of Winchester, Illinois, where an electric co-op, the Illinois Rural Electric Co-op, had the vision to decide they're going to build this solar panel farm right here. And it's going to serve the people living in the area and provide enough electricity that they would be able to have enough homes taken care of, 170 homes in the middle of the summer when people are using their air conditioners. So this is a good example of doing the right thing for the environment, doing the right thing for American workers, and in this case, doing the right thing for the people who belong to this co-op.
Is there anything going on in the Senate right now, any legislation to kind of help these types of plants?
Now here's the sad reality. The legislation that created the opportunity for this solar panel farm was passed a long time ago. We've been so caught up in the basic argument about whether climate change is going on and the rest of it, we've really cut back, and we shouldn't. As a nation, if we move forward with clean energy, it's going to make it a safer country, a better country for our kids and our grandkids. We have an obligation to the next generation to leave this planet in better shape than we found it. And it means doing the environmentally sensible things. This is one of them, and we should be doing a lot more.
Senator, I don't know if you know the economics on this. Does this make sense economically as well as environmentally?
What you're going to find is initially there will be cheaper sources of electricity. Coal-fired plants, for example, maybe even natural gas plants. But then you've got some other elements that have to be taken into consideration. Many of the coal-fired plants have emissions that are causing serious public health challenges. Now, if they're going to modernize these plants, the cost of electricity coming from them is going to be more expensive. What you're dealing with here from the start is a clean source of energy. God provides it for us every sunny day. So it's a good investment. Front end, nope, the economics are still on the side of coal and natural gas. But over the long haul, as we become more sensitive to the environment and climate change, we're going to find these investments are going to have a lot of legs and a lot of future.
All right, so what we have here, this is a 4-acre site of solar panels. The engineering side, exactly 2,223 panels. Each of them puts out about 270 watts. So the size, the scope of this array, this farm, if you will, is going to be at just about a half a megawatt. That's kind of hard to quantify maybe for some people, but if you put it in actual numbers, this at full sun, this will be able to serve energy for about 170 homes. So that's kind of the scope and size of this. Now, one interesting thing we were able to do by being the cooperative and owning this is we located it right adjacent to a substation, so we were able to keep our costs down to build something like this and to do a very viable project. And then obviously one of the other big things that goes along with this is the fact that we were able to do this with the incentives we received, which we wouldn't have been able to do it without those. At complete package on this project, just under a $2 million project, that would have been a lot to just pay for and watch that thing try to pay for itself. But we were able to, because of the grant programs that were available, we went and got a USDA federal grant, a state grant, and we'll additionally sell the green or the renewable credits off this project so that we're actually going to make this a very viable project going forward with not only what we were able to put in, our members that are asking us to do more renewable energy type projects. If you're familiar, we did the big wind turbine over in Pittsfield, and this is kind of that was the predecessor to doing more renewable projects because we're trying to all, as utilities, meet our portfolio standard, do more renewable energy, and see if we can take advantage of this kind of stuff. And these programs are out there, and so I know that we're the first co-op to do this in Illinois, but we just, if nothing else, if we can be a springboard, if we can stir more development and do more of this kind of thing, I mean, we can locate a solar farm like this next to every substation if we really want to. So it's kind of interesting to see where this might be able to continue going after this.
Do you know off the top of your head what's a cost breakdown? In other words, how would this compare? You serve, I forgot the number of how many homes. The investment to homes, how would that compare to whether it's a coal or a natural gas fire?
It's, if you had to take this project on its own merits, pay for it completely without some kind of incentivized either per kilowatt hour production credit or an upfront grant funding type vehicle, it'd be tough to compare this directly to coal and other things. They're still the cheapest source of energy, but obviously when you factor in the renewable benefit of a project like this, and the fact that there's projects out there to try to spur that development, then you're able to pit the two against each other in a little closer fashion. We believe with the incentives we got on this project that we'll be at or beat coal on a per kilowatt hour basis. So, but you're correct in your assumption that if you had to pay for it outright, it's still expensive today.
What about the operating cost of this? How would that compare, let's say, to a coal or a gas-fired plant?
True. In the case of operating costs, obviously you're going to be way ahead of the game because we have free fuel. I don't have fuel costs, and a maintenance on solar, even compared to wind. The wind takes some maintenance to keep those rotating bearings and machines, kind of operating and especially as you go out a little ways. The life of these panels is, they give us 20, 25, 30-year life on the panels themselves. So, and a lot of the statistics, when they talk about these things, they say, the big concern is, will they continue to produce at optimum output over the long haul? And the manufacturer spec, this is a made in the USA product from this manufacturer, and they say this thing's going to be well above 80, 90% output years into the future. So actually, that's where technology has really changed things. You got a panel that will put out for the long haul. So other than some power electronics, there's no moving parts. So you've got a project that's going to have a really good, useful life.
Let's talk about the weather. We just came out of a hard winter. There's
Yeah.
a lot of snow.
Yep.
Is snow going to be something where if it piles up on here, it's going to shut off the electricity?
If these are covered, a big cloud moves over and you do get some shielded output. There's no doubt that will block. Snow on them will. Tends to just a little bit of ambient heat. The snow tends to, unless it's really cold like we had this winter, it tends to kind of naturally want to melt off. So we get that extra benefit, I guess. But anything else, especially in the Midwest, in the Southwest, when they put panels in, they have to wash these very, readily because of the debris. Here we have enough potential rainfall that we don't think we'll have to do that as often. But yeah, anything that would block or shield will inhibit their output for sure.
We're located next to a farm field. I was going to ask about the farmers putting the crop in or whatever, stirring up dust, and to what extent that would cut down on the. So I guess anything that's sitting on the panels is going to be blocking
It sure will.
efficiency of the panel.
Correct. So we will have to make an effort to make sure that we're clear. But we noticed through the heavy snow and winter that we had this year that we did very well with kind of just natural sunlight or just the ambient heat allowing the snow to come off the panels. So do well.
Let's talk about a little bit. This is all American made. Now that sounds good, and we want to wave the flag and say
Sure.
great, but let's go to the cost again. Are American-made products necessarily better, or are they much more expensive than what you might have had made in some other country? Or
Okay. No, really good point. Actually, we did some research on this when we were looking at which type of panel, and there's actually a lot of Chinese manufacturers and others. Well, it just so happens when you source panels from that far away, your shipping and other costs, you incur those additionals. You got a company like this Solar World that we got these panels from in California. Cut down those kind of costs. Their manufacturing costs were not out of line with some of those foreign manufacturers. So it's actually a great thing, not just to toot the Made in America, Made in USA horn, so to speak, but we do have a manufacturer that's viable, that's able to do that and reduce our costs because of the fact that I don't have the additional shipping. So we've now got entrance into the market making solar panels that we didn't have maybe a decade ago. And that maybe is part of the technology. You've got companies driving to try to do more. So we're excited to see as more solar fields go in, that maybe more manufacturers will jump into the game here in the U.S.
And I was going to go there. Let's talk. So how long, first of all, this project is still not yet complete.
Right.
Let's talk, what's the life cycle of planning, implementing, and bringing it to where you're connected to the grid? How long of a time span does that take?
Sure. We had some knowledge base ourselves just because we had already brought wind technology onto the grid. So I guess that kind of sped things up a little bit for us. Really from a planning horizon, once we knew, because of locating it to an adjacent substation, that we can have ability to bring load into, that sped the time up tremendously. A planning horizon of a few months' time to construction window has been about a 4-month time frame. So believe it or not, with the right equipment and the right personnel who are experienced, you can put these projects in very quickly.
So we sound like you're talking almost like a 6-month time window. Is that
probably construction? Today we're just getting close to 4 months of construction. We're within a few weeks of having this thing completely operational, and so with the planning, most definitely under a year's time frame for sure.
As I swing the camera around here, we have a number of wires dangling, so these are not connected to anything.
Correct.
What is
Correct.
that the next step of the game?
That's exactly right. Every major piece is actually installed and done today, and the only thing we have left is final interconnection of all the panels individually, which obviously is a lot of work just trying to bring that together, but we don't want to bring each panel online until the feed in front of it's ready. So that'll be the final steps is to actually tie them in and heat them up as they go along.
What surprises in the development, if any? Was there a relative to the learning curve? If you had to do it again, what What do you wish you would have known going into it that you didn't know?
The biggest thing for us is we desperately wish we wouldn't have picked the coldest winter of record in the last decade or two or whatever that was, and that's presented challenges. Driving piles, having to trench through some of this, bore cables underground. And with the coldest winter of record in a number of years, that's made some challenges, but honestly the contractor is right on schedule, so it's a testimony to the hard work those guys have been doing.
When do you estimate right now that it'll go online? How much longer?
We're within 2 or 3 weeks, so we'll have it. My hope was to be up by April, and I'm confident we're going to be right there.
Yeah, and this, you may not be the person perhaps to ask this, but when it comes on, I mean, you've been supplying as a rural electric cooperative, you've already been supplying electricity to your customers.
Correct.
What will this do for you that you therefore weren't able to do before? I mean, how will it just change in the broad scheme of things?
Right. It does a couple things. Its actual output, one thing it does, since it serves a substation that we're buying coal-fired energy from our upstream provider, any electricity this puts out reduces the amount of coal generation that we require. So it's immediately offsetting coal-fired energy every time it produces electricity.
So if I have this right, you may be able to cut back on the coal fire that you're buying, and which is going to be more expensive. Coal is not necessarily expensive, but to the extent you have to buy it from someone else.
Correct.
To the extent that you can maybe keep whatever dollar amount you don't have to expend.
Right.
You can meet your customers' needs now with now that this is in.
Exactly.
Lower cost. I almost want to say, now that you've incurred the capital cost of putting it in, would it be almost like at this point then free energy? Or is there, it seems to me there would be very low operating costs.
Yeah, there is virtually no operating cost other than to maintain and monitor, which we'll put it onto our network where we watch the power flow. So you're exactly right.
Anyway, right?
Other than the capital outlay and then depreciating the asset over time, that's exactly right. This thing is just going to simply offset our coal purchases. That's exactly
So
right.
for your bottom line, and you're a nonprofit, but as you operational budget, has anyone run the numbers or speculated what it might mean as far as dollars that you'll be able to keep within the cooperative instead of putting them outside?
I don't have an exact dollar figure, but I do know that, like a lot of utilities, we have a purchase power offset every month. And so anything this thing flows as a benefit to members that's beyond what the cost of coal-fired energy would be, they're going to get a direct credit on their bill. And it may be small compared to, we have almost 11,000 meters, so you spread that out, but every member will benefit directly. Not just the fact that the co-op's getting cheaper electricity and offsetting coal purchases, but they're getting a direct flow back as well. So
To be clear then, if, sometimes I don't want to misunderstand, would the homeowner see their costs then somewhat go down?
They may see a slight adjustment every month as this thing does better than the market, or they would potentially see an adjustment every month that could help them.
And then last thing, relative to the cost and operation, all that. If you are now able to generate far more electricity than you need to use to meet your customers' demands, can you sell it on the open grid and also make money that way?
With this size of actually we right-sized this project, if you will. This project is much smaller than the total capacity of the substation it's feeding. So actually we will always take the full output from this thing. It's that much less we'll buy from our upstream provider as this is putting out power. Okay. So we'll take it all.
You're watching the Illinois Channel, an independent nonprofit corporation formed to provide gavel-to-gavel coverage of Illinois state government and other public affairs events taking place across Illinois.